The United Kingdom is a place where history and modern life meet at every corner. It is the birthplace of Shakespeare and the Beatles, and home to the famous capital London. Here, four unique countries, England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, join together, each with its own natural wonders and mystical locations. Historic landmarks ranging from the ancient Stonehenge to medieval castles of Northern Ireland narrate the stories of times long past. These places connect people to their history, offering a direct link to the adventures, struggles, and lives of their ancestors. Protecting these treasures involves more than simply preserving them from age and deterioration. It also includes educating people about their significance and enabling future generations not only to visit these places, but also to learn from them. The Jurassic Coast is a stretch of coastline along the southern edge of England that tells a story millions of years old. This place is famous for its fossils, hidden in layers of rock formed over 230 million years ago. Scientists have discovered the bones of giant reptiles and intricate shells that once belonged to sea creatures of ancient oceans. Meanwhile, the cliffs and coves, constantly shaped by the ocean, show how the Earth has changed over time. Further along the Jurassic Coast, we come upon Old Harry Rocks. These white chalk formations, topped with green grass, mark the very eastern end of this historic coastline. Old Harry Rocks were once part of a long stretch of chalk ridge. Over thousands of years, the sea broke through this ridge, leaving behind the pillars we see today. The name Old Harry is steeped in local legend, often associated with the devil, who folklore says once slept on the rocks. Moving west along the Jurassic Coast, we reach Durdle Door, one of the most iconic natural arches in the world. The tale begins around 140 million years ago, in the warm, shallow seas of the Jurassic period. Over millennia, the remains of countless tiny sea creatures accumulated on the ocean floor, slowly compacting into the hard Portland limestone that would one day form Durdle Door. One notable film that showcased Durdle Door is Nanny McPhee from 2005, where it appeared in several beach scenes. Glastonbury Tor stands as a striking hill in Somerset, England. At its peak, the remains of St. Michael's Tower watch over the surrounding plains, a lonely reminder of a church toppled by an earthquake in the late 13th century. One of the most fascinating facts about Glastonbury Tor is its supposed connection to the Holy Grail. Legend has it that Joseph of Arimathea, the man who buried Jesus, brought the Grail to the Tor and hid it beneath the hill, making it a site of pilgrimage and mystery. Skye, situated on the west coast of Scotland, is renowned for its breathtaking and dramatic scenes. The island is dominated by the Pwllheli, a range of rocky mountains whose jagged peaks provide some of the most dramatic mountain scenery in the country. The Pwllheli Hills are a range of rocky mountains that are among the most challenging and scenic in Scotland. The Trotternish Ridge, famed for its unusual geological formations, has basalt from 55-million-year-old lava flows. Sitting on top of the softer Jurassic sedimentary rocks, the Old Man of Storr, a dramatic pinnacle of basalt rock, represents all that is left from a 2,800-million-year-old volcanic plug. Its name comes from its resemblance to an old man's profile gazing out over the landscape. It was an inspiration and the filming location of the epic science fiction film The BFG, directed by Steven Spielberg. The Kilt Rock features incredible basalt columns that resemble a pleated kilt. The Mealt Falls alongside it momentarily falls over 19 meters directly into the sea, creating a beautiful contrast between the rock formations and the graceful flow of water. Rising from the sea off the coast of Cornwall, England, stands St. Michael's Mount, a small tidal island crowned by a medieval church and estate. The story of St. Michael's Mount began over 1,500 years ago. Cornish legend tells us that the Archangel Michael appeared on the western side of the island to a group of fishermen, forever establishing the mount as a sacred place. Pilgrims have made their way to the island ever since to pray and seek spiritual connection. St. Michael's Mount also shares its name with Mont Saint-Michel in France, and both have similar histories and geographical features, creating a fascinating connection across the sea. Off the southern coast of England, there's a small group of rock formations called the Needles on the Isle of Wight. The name comes from one particularly sharp, needle-like rock that sadly collapsed in a storm more than 200 years ago. The Needles have seen many ships pass by over the centuries, some of which met tragic ends against their hard surfaces. This area is famous not only for its dramatic scenery, but also for the lighthouse built at the end of the 19th century to guide ships safely around the perilous waters. In the rolling countryside of Northern Ireland lies the Dark Hedges, a quiet road near the town of Ballymoney. Planted in the 18th century by the Stuart family, these trees were intended to impress visitors on their way to the family's mansion, Grace Hill House. Interestingly, the Dark Hedges are not only renowned for their beauty, but also for their appearance in film and television. Featured in the TV series Game of Thrones as the King's Road, they gained extra fame and an air of mystery. On the southern coast of England, a series of bright chalk cliffs rise dramatically from the sea. These are the Seven Sisters Cliffs. These cliffs form part of the South Downs National Park and stretch from the town of Seaford to Eastbourne. Interestingly, Each cliff is uniquely named and displays a pure white color, a characteristic owed to the chalk composition that forms them. Moreover, the Seven Sisters are often mistaken for the White Cliffs of Dover, another famous site, but they are indeed separate and unique. The Giant Causeway was formed over 60 million years ago by an ancient volcanic activity. As the molten basalt cooled, it contracted and fractured into mostly hexagonal columns, creating a honeycomb-like structure stretching out into the sea. According to the legend, the causeway was built by the Irish giant Finn McCool to avoid getting his feet wet as stepping stones to Scotland, where he intended to confront his Scottish rival. Much like the mythical giants from the legends, the volcano that created the basalt columns of the Giant's Causeway can no longer be seen today. Gradually disappearing through centuries of erosion, it no longer marks the landscape. In the rolling hills of Wales stands the Pwllheli Waterfall, one of the tallest waterfalls in the United Kingdom. What makes Pwllheli truly unique is its natural stone arch. This bridge-like formation splits the waterfall, creating a magical scene resembling something from a fairy tale. Fountains Abbey, one of the largest and best preserved ruined Cistercian monasteries in the country, has a story that spans over 400 years. Founded in 1132 by 13 Benedictine monks seeking a simpler life, this abbey grew to become one of the wealthiest in England. The monks named it Fountains Abbey after the natural springs that flowed through the site. They started out with simple wooden buildings, but over time, these were replaced with stunning stone structures. Today, it welcomes hundreds of thousands of visitors each year, inviting them to step back in time and explore nearly 900 years of history in one extraordinary place. The White Cliffs of Dover stand tall and proud on England's southeastern coastline, facing France across the narrowest part of the English Channel. These cliffs are famous for their striking white color, which comes from a type of rock called chalk. At the very top of Scotland, where the land meets the sea, stand the Duncansby Stacks. These are tall columns of rock formed over thousands of years, shaped by the waves of the North Sea. Interestingly, the rocks that make up the stacks come from a time when dinosaurs roamed the earth. They belong to the Old Red Sandstone, formed about 400 million years ago during the Devonian period. In the northern part of England stands Hadrian's Wall, a remarkable structure built by the Romans over 1,900 years ago. Emperor Hadrian ordered its construction to protect the Roman Empire from the tribes in Scotland. Perhaps the most astonishing fact about Hadrian's Wall is that despite its impressive scale and durability, only about 10% of the original structure is visible today. Built in the late 1800s, the Glenfinnan Viaduct was a groundbreaking achievement for its time. It was constructed entirely out of concrete, making it the first structure of its kind and size. Over the years, The Glenfinnan Viaduct has become a cultural icon, featured on banknotes and beloved by locals and visitors alike. Yet perhaps its most famous moment came when it was featured in the Harry Potter films, carrying the magical Hogwarts Express across its spans. Edinburgh Castle's story begins over 340 million years ago, when a mighty volcano erupted, leaving behind the rocky hill we see today. Iron Age warriors were the first to make use of this natural stronghold, fortifying the summit. But the castle's true saga as a royal residence began in the 11th century with Queen Margaret, later venerated as a saint. Over its long life, no other castle in Britain has endured more sieges and attacks than Edinburgh Castle. Its walls have witnessed heroic fights and daring escapes as it changed hands between the Scots and English. This is the Ring of Brodgar, a giant stone circle that takes us back to a time before recorded history. Built by people who lived over 5,000 years ago, this monument gives us a peek into the lives and beliefs of a society that thrived during the Stone Age. The Ring of Brodgar is truly special. It's made up of 36 tall stones that form an almost perfect circle. But that's not all. This stone circle is just one part of a much bigger site that also includes burial mounds and a deep ditch dug out of the ground. Stirling Castle's story began long before Scotland existed as we know it today. Over 2,000 years ago, ancient peoples first fortified this strategic high point. However, it was during the medieval period that Stirling Castle truly rose to prominence. Over the centuries, Scottish monarchs transformed Stirling Castle from a military fortress into a stunning Renaissance palace. It was a favoured residence of Scottish kings and queens who held grand celebrations there, from christenings to coronations. Just a few miles from the historic walls of Stirling Castle stands another emblem of Scotland's fierce spirit of independence, the National Wallace Monument. This towering tribute celebrates Sir William Wallace, one of Scotland's most legendary figures and a key leader during the Wars of Scottish independence. It was built in the 19th century, long after Wallace's death, as a testament to his enduring legacy. Located in Scotland and formed around 60 million years ago by ancient lava flows, Fingles Cave is a sea cave like no other. Its walls are made up of towering hexagonal columns of basalt rock that look almost too perfect to be natural. In fact, these same lava flows also created the Giant Causeway in Northern Ireland, directly across the sea. Bamburgh Castle is one of the oldest inhabited castles in England. This castle isn't just any old building, it's a piece of history that has seen centuries of battles, kings, and stories. Over the years, Bamburgh Castle has been attacked many times. Despite these attacks, it always provided a safe refuge for its people. The castle overlooks a dangerous stretch of sea and has witnessed many shipwrecks. In response, the first Coast Guard was formed here, dramatically changing how people responded to shipwrecks and saving countless lives. Whitby Abbey towers over the town of Whitby, overlooking the North Sea from its high cliff. It was first built as a double monastery, housing both monks and nuns under its roof. However, the peace at Whitby Abbey didn't last. In the 9th century, Viking raiders attacked and destroyed it, a common fate for many coastal religious sites during this period. It stayed in ruins for around 200 years before being rebuilt. Despite its revival, Whitby Abbey faced challenges over the centuries, leading to its final abandonment. Even after Viking raids, Norman reconstruction, and centuries of neglect, it stands, albeit in ruins, showing us the power of history. In total contrast to the ruins stands one of the world's most magnificent cathedrals. York Minster is a powerful symbol in the city of York, known for its stunning Gothic architecture. It features pointed arches, ribbed vaults, and flying buttresses. The current building story began around 1230 and took about 250 years to complete, showing the dedication and faith of generations. The cathedral has suffered 3 major fires in its history. Each time, restoration efforts have managed to preserve and restore everything to its former glory. Winding through a deep limestone gorge and surrounded by high cliffs is the Winner's Pass. Long ago, the whole area was under the sea, explaining the limestone that forms the hills around it. As the sea disappeared, the rock was pushed upward to form the slope and the narrow path we see today. Winner's Pass is not only known for its natural beauty, it also has a darker, more mysterious side. It is said that a young couple, planning to be married, was tragically harmed by some miners who tried to rob them in the pass. Since then, some say the ghosts of the couple can be seen wandering the pass. Dunatar Castle was built on a rocky edge along the northeast coast of Scotland. Over those years, many important people stayed there, including Mary, Queen of Scots, and Charles II before he became a king. The castle was a fortress, built to be strong and protect those inside. Despite its strong defenses, Dunatar has faced many battles and sieges. One of the most intense was in 1652, when it was finally captured after 8 months of fighting. Dunatar Castle was abandoned in the 18th century. The once formidable fortress gradually deteriorated into the ruins seen today. The coast is also home to Ratray Head Lighthouse. Since its construction, it's guided ships safely through the North Sea. It stands on a remote sandy beach, only fully visible at low tide. During high tide, the sea covers the causeway, making the Ratray Head look like it's floating on the water. The lighthouse is automated, which means it doesn't require a human keeper to live there anymore. Today, Ratray Head Lighthouse continues to operate its light, flashing every 30 seconds to warn ships of the nearby dangers. The Royal Pavilion is a unique palace with a style unlike any other in Britain. The design combines elements from across the world, particularly from Asia. Through its transformations, from a royal residence to a hospital and now a museum, the Royal Pavilion has remained a distinct architectural and historical landmark. The Durham Cathedral. This majestic structure is not only a place of worship, but also a piece of historical significance. The architecture of the cathedral is notable for its Norman and Romanesque style, which features massive columns and rounded arches. This design not only provided greater stability, but also added a striking visual element to the interior. One fascinating fact that often surprises people is that the cathedral's towers were once used as a prison during the Napoleonic Wars. The Minack Theatre is a unique open-air theatre perched on the cliffs overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. The seats and stages were carved directly into the granite cliffside. Despite the hard work, the efforts were fueled by a passion for theatre and the beauty of the natural surroundings. Conway Castle. This imposing fortress has 8 large towers and 2 barbicans, making it one of the most formidable defensive structures of its time. Both the castle and town walls were built hastily in only 4 years. It took up to 1,500 craftsmen to finish the job. The castle's strategic location allowed it to dominate the surrounding landscape and control a major river crossing. Conway Castle served not just as a military stronghold, but also as a royal residence. Despite its age and the battle that it has seen, the structure remains largely intact. The Kelpies Monument is a striking sculpture that honours Scotland's canal history and horse-powered heritage. Made from hundreds of steel plates, the Kelpies are the largest equine sculptures in the world. They're named after mythical water spirits in Scottish folklore, which often take the form of horses. These spirits are said to have the strength and endurance of 100 horses, a fitting tribute given the culture's theme and history. Wastwater is the deepest lake in England. It was formed thousands of years ago by the slow grinding of glaciers, which carved out a valley between the mountains. A long, narrow lake with tall peaks surrounding it is what this process left behind. The landscape around Wastwater is rugged, with the nearby peaks often shrouded in mist or topped with snow depending on the season. Wastwater is less frequented by tourists, preserving a more peaceful atmosphere, which can be quite refreshing for those who do visit. Warwick Castle rises proudly above the banks of the River Avon as one of the most famous and well-preserved castles in the United Kingdom. The castle is home to one of the world's largest trebuchets, a type of catapult. This trebuchet is a reconstruction based on medieval designs and is used in demonstrations that show how castles were taken over in the Middle Ages. Initially, it was constructed as a wooden Motte and Bailey castle, but over the centuries, it transformed into the massive stone fortress it is today. The Angel of the North represents the history and hopes of the people living in the area. The angel was set on a hill where everyone could see it, and despite some people initially opposing its construction, the sculpture has become a beloved landmark. It is built to last for more than 100 years and can withstand winds over 160 kilometers per hour. The Angel of the North symbolizes the area's transition from an industrial era dominated by coal mining and steel manufacturing to a new phase of regeneration and growth. London, a city that needs no introduction, yet holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. Founded by the Romans nearly 2,000 years ago, this capital has faced invasions, plagues, and fires, emerging each time as a stronger, more resilient version of itself. This capacity for renewal is also reflected in its iconic landmarks, such as Big Ben. Officially named the Elizabeth Tower, Big Ben is the nickname for the Great Bell of the Clock, located at the north end of the Palace of Westminster. As one of London's most iconic landmarks, Big Ben is a popular filming location and has been featured in movies like 28 Days Later, V for Vendetta, Mars Attacks, and was voted London's most iconic film location in 2007. Adjacent to Big Ben, the Palace of Westminster stands as a grand architectural feat and the heart of British politics. This Gothic-style structure serves as the meeting place for the two houses of the Parliament of the United Kingdom. Today, the palace remains a key part of British democracy. It is part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site, along with Westminster Abbey. This abbey is more than just an old church. It has been the setting for every coronation since 1066, when William the Conqueror was crowned on Christmas Day. In contrast to its royal celebrations, the abbey also serves as the final resting place for over 3,300 people, including 17 monarchs, famous scientists, poets, and soldiers. Buckingham Palace, another iconic landmark in London, serves as the official residence and administrative headquarters of the British monarchy. The palace has 775 rooms, including 19 staterooms, 52 royal and guest bedrooms, 188 staff bedrooms, 92 offices, and 78 bathrooms. These expansive facilities accommodate a range of royal duties and events, from state banquets and official receptions to ceremonies and garden parties hosted by the royal family throughout the year. In the centre of London stands the London Eye, a giant wheel that offers a bird's-eye view of England's capital. Since its opening in 2000, it has made its way into the history books as Europe's tallest cantilevered observation wheel. Connecting the north and south sides of the city is the Tower Bridge. The construction of the Tower Bridge was a monumental task. It took 8 years and the relentless labor of 432 workers each day to build the bridge. The bridge is both a bascule and a suspension bridge. Its continuing function, more than a century after its construction, shows the lasting significance of this magnificent bridge. While the Tower Bridge symbolizes human ingenuity in the bustling city, the wild landscapes of the Scottish Highlands speak to the untouched splendor of nature. Known for their dramatic views made of rugged mountains, deep blue lochs, and vast moorlands, they hold a profound significance. Centuries ago, clans roamed these lands, each guarding their territory fiercely until they were forced from their homes and emigrated to places like North America and Australia. The Highlands are home to a stunning set of 3 steeply sided ridges named the Three Sisters of Glencoe. Each of the sisters offers a distinct shape and character, creating one of Scotland's most memorable and photographed sites. Stonehenge is a prehistoric monument known for its architectural and astronomical significance. It is believed that it was built between 3000 BC and 2000 BC, with the massive sarsen stones being moved over distances of up to 30 kilometers. The precise placement of these stones aligns with the movements of the sun, particularly during the solstices. This fact is leading many to believe that Stonehenge was used as an ancient astronomical observatory or for ritualistic purposes linked to the solar and lunar cycles. The Uffington White Horse is formed from deep trenches filled with crushed white chalk, creating the shape of a horse on the hillside. The origins of the Uffington White Horse date back over 3,000 years, making it one of the oldest and most famous hill figures in Britain. No definitive evidence explains who the creators were or why they built it, leaving archaeologists to speculate based on the artifacts and burial mounds found nearby. Another massive but much more intriguing figure depicts a giant man holding a club. The CERN Abbas giant, also known as the Rude Man of CERN, stands out against the green lands around him. The giant is located near a medieval abbey, and some believe the figure was meant to be a parody of a monk from the abbey. The figure is often linked to fertility due to its nudity and overt masculinity. Locals in the past believed that if a couple could make love on the figure, they would have improved fertility and a higher chance of conceiving children. Leeds Castle is known as the loveliest castle in the world, a title given for its stunning surroundings and elegant architecture. This medieval structure is built on 2 small islands in the middle of a lake. The castle has been associated with royalty throughout its history, including some of the most famous names in English history. Leeds Castle has been a royal residence, a private home, and now a public museum, making it a true jewel in the crown of England's historical heritage. Beneva Mountain formed millions of years ago during a period of intense volcanic activity. It is said to be one of the seats of the ancient Irish gods, therefore getting its name after the Celtic god Bina. This basalt cap sits on softer rocks that have eroded over time, creating the cliffs that make Beneva so distinctive in the landscape. The mountain and its surroundings were used as a filming location for the well-known TV series Game of Thrones, representing the Dothraki grasslands. This fact has drawn fans and tourists alike eager to see the real-life setting of scenes from the series. Today, we explored the United Kingdom, a land brimming with natural wonders and remarkable achievements. Now, if you don't want to miss the incredible wonders of India, check out this video.